Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the post-Valentine's Day edition of Dads and Ed. This is episode 47. My name is Josh Allen, coming to you live from Nebraska. Beautiful, balmy, snow is almost gone, Nebraska. It's hard to believe. I am the technology integration specialist at Lewis Central, just outside of Council Bluffs area-ish, across the river from Omaha. And I have a beautiful wife, three wonderful kids, and breaking news, we have another one coming in August.
Oh, look at that. It was breaking news.
It is. It was going to be announced last week, but you were gone. And thought about holding it out again, but sorry, Brent.
Well,
Can't be here for breaking news.
that is awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is really exciting. That's very cool.
Wife's
Hoping
not wife's not crazy enough, so gotta add one more.
I was going to say, we always talk about, we have two children, and we always think anybody with more than two is just nutso anyways.
We are,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. So I'm glad that you're admitting that, because we've always just kind of hung to the assumption that more than two equals a level of craziness that we have no intention of ever getting to.
You know what? I completely agree with you. It's kind of, Brent, with the five kids who
Right.
we'll get into in just a second, but that I look at that and I think that's crazy. So I would imagine that the way you and Aaron look at us is the same way that we look at Brent and
Right.
his beautiful wife.
Right. Yeah,
I,
I would agree.
you're at the point where it's like, you know what? It's crazy. One more is not going to really matter.
What's one more? See, I'm assuming that's the way it really goes, because it's like two, and two seems really good. You're even numbers, everything's good. And I would think once you get past a three, what the heck? I mean, it doesn't matter at
Yeah.
that point, right?
Well, yeah. My wife always claims that you need even numbers when you go to Disneyland. Everyone has a partner,
that's why
which
she that's why she gets paid the big bucks in the family.
something like that. But
She
of
has
course, I tried to make the argument at one point in my life that, like in your situation, Devin, you have even numbers too.
very true. It's all even here.
But
Um,
anyway,
except for being outnumbered like crazy. Well,
well,
yeah.
that's
Anyways,
true.
no, that is awesome. Congratulations
Thank you.
to you guys. That's very cool. Very, very cool. I'm Devin Schoening. I do some things occasionally in Council Bluffs community schools. Don't really know what, but sometimes I do some things for some kids and some teachers. My lovely wife, Erin, is they're sitting out watching the Grammys. I was telling Josh kind of before we came on air that I'm kind of an award show guy. I kind of like award shows for whatever reason. It's a bit weird and odd, but I really do kind of like that. So I was a little bummed when I thought it was going to be on Sunday night. Now it's on Monday night, but that's okay. My two lovely children, Claire is not in here to introduce me. She is out watching the Grammys as well, and she might be, as a 9-year-old can be, might be getting bored of us. Like, this might be
Hmm.
old hat after 40 some episodes. I think she might be giving it up.
Wow, that's two breaking news segments in less than 5 minutes. This is a little crazy.
Well,
You know, I
yeah, go ahead.
well, if we would have done our research, and if you've watched any of the 46 previous episodes, we don't do research, but we should have had Claire be our Grammy reporter.
We could have. That's true.
I mean,
That's
we'll jot that idea down for next year.
Oh yeah, I'm assuming we'll be around next year and doing the same things, and Claire might do that at that point. But yeah, there were other things. She thinks she's getting paid as the fourth member of Dad's in It, and all of that is going right out the window. So
She gets paid just as much as the rest of us do.
she does. That's the sad fact of the matter.
So those of you that have watched the show know that normally Brent Catlett is the third member of the crew. We got a message from Brent this afternoon that said his kids were dropping like flies from illness, and so we politely excused him because that's not something we want to see on air. So,
Yeah.
hoping that the Catlett family gets well. It is definitely that time of year, but hopefully he'll be back here in a couple weeks.
I was gonna try and like do his voice and put on a little like some sunglasses and a Kansas City hat and try and do dual roles, like have two computers sitting here, but that would have taken more planning than I'm used to for the show. So
Yeah,
I decided
which that takes some planning, which is way more than what any of us do.
that is very true.
All right, if you want to get in touch with the show, feel free to tweet at us at Dads and Ed. You can use the hashtag Dads and Ed. If you want to listen to this later because you thought it was awesome or you missed the two breaking news items we had in the first 5 minutes, you can go to dadsanded.podbean.com. You can search Dads and Ed on iTunes, or you can check out the Edu Podcast Network, and you can find us and a lot of other lovely podcasts there to learn from. Tonight's water cooler segment. First off, Super Bowl. Were you surprised at the result? The Broncos won handily. Can I say handily
You could
over the
say,
Panthers?
yeah,
Not a
yeah.
blowout, but
No, it's
not
one of
really
those
Jeopardy.
not necessarily the most prolific scoring night that Super Bowl has ever had. But I thought it was an entertaining game. I didn't think it was. I've heard some people call it boring, and I saw some people talking about it not being that great of a game. But I kind of enjoyed it. I thought there were lots of big plays. I thought the defenses played well. I thought there was just enough offense to make it not completely boring. So yeah, I was rooting for the Broncos. So it was. I thought it was kind of fun.
If you go back and check the tape, you know that all of us did pick Carolina, but we all did that with a lot of hesitation. And I think you're right. I found it a very entertaining game.
Yeah.
I think that the offensive output was more about the defense than it was the offense. And you know, Denver had 186 total yards and still won. And really, it was all about they had a defensive touchdown. Um, and they had another big play, touchdown or big play drive.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Carolina still had 300 some yards of offense. So definitely all about the defense. And I agree. I thought it was an entertaining game. I enjoyed it.
Wait, never more clear evidence that Peyton Manning needs to retire, though, right?
Amen.
Uh,
Don't
it was
bother.
brutal to watch sometimes, and kind of sad. It's one of those things that you see these great players, and I think you want them, especially guys like him who really, I guess contrary to current news or I guess old news, hasn't done anything wrong. Seems
No.
to be the guy who works pretty hard. Seems like a nice guy. Has the good commercials. And has been a great player for so long. But to see someone like that just kind of look completely out of place in a Super Bowl is pretty sad.
Yeah, and I do think it's probably time, and like you alluded to, there's issues coming up now in the last week, and with the HGH stuff in the last couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
And by no means do I condone those, but it is kind of sad to see those coming out, and
Yeah,
that, and I don't know if it is true or if it's not true, but you're right. He always appeared to be the aw shucks type of guy, and it's sad to see the end of his career possibly showing some alternatives to that persona that's been out there.
yeah, absolutely, I agree.
The other water cooler topic, since Brent's not here to fill in some time, we thought we'd throw out two, and I already did post it to the Dads and Ed hashtag or the Dads and Ed account. Tweeted it out from friend of the show AJ Giuliani, talking about what's next for educators after Twitter. There's been a lot of discussion about how Twitter really isn't making money and it's not really growing. And so the discussion has started like, what are we doing after Twitter? In AJ's post here, he highlights that what is it in the last year? Yeah, in the last year, Twitter did not add any new users, which
Mm-hmm.
I thought was a very interesting point. He mentions that it's down to like number 29 in the top charts, and its companion Periscope, the sister live broadcasting, I think it's 35th. He said so. As we were going through, there were some ones that were new to me. Um, But what are your thoughts? Is Twitter dead? What are we going to do after Twitter?
Yeah, I guess my first thing would be I don't think it is. Even with some of the changes that seem to be coming down the road here with Twitter, I don't think it's dead. My biggest concern with that, and I posted a comment to AJ's post that day, is when you talk about that being a space for educators, the percentage of educators who are actually there is still pretty small. When you look at all educators that are out there, but there are so many educators too that I know that you've worked with and I've worked with, and that's kind of been the space. We've said, hey, go to Twitter, and sometimes a lot of times there was a lot of reluctance there. And so my biggest concern is that we try and get some of these reluctant users to these spaces, and then the space changes, and it leads to just an immense amount of frustration for folks who aren't really comfortable in some of those spaces anyways, and it's kind of being pushed like, hey, we need people in these spaces, go there to share and connect with other people and with teachers and with experts, and oh, by the way, in a year it's going to go away and you're going to have to try and figure something else out, or something else new out. And that part really concerns me as someone who tries to work with not only teachers and kids, but sometimes folks who are just a little bit reluctant. So I'm concerned that even if, and again, I don't think it's necessarily going away quickly, but that's my concern about something like that going away. You already have a hard enough problem with websites and apps that go from being free to paid, or here for 2 years and then they're gone. That I think it's really frustrating for teachers.
I agree.
I agree.
You're one of the things that I experimented with, so I had never had Snapchat before. So as I'm going through this, I am hearing from a couple other people about how schools are using Snapchat, and so I actually did sign up for an account the other day. And it was funny because I think you and I had this discussion about how I was in the same boat as many teachers are as far as Twitter goes, and that it's frustrating for them. And I still haven't quite figured out Snapchat. I've got I follow a few people, but I think you're right. If we you continually jump back and forth and just get people there, and then things start changing. And I agree with you. I don't think it's going away very quickly, although I've not have a great track record of what is going to go well, and what's gonna stick around and what's gonna go away quickly. But um, it is interesting. Social networking and discussions and everything are just a very interesting topic. It's interesting to see how it affects education, and like Devin said, you never really know when things are going to be here and when they're going to be gone, which is really too bad. Um, Let me do that. So a couple ones that AJ talked about in his post that let's see, top contenders for post Twitter, Google Plus, which he then said was just joking. Instagram is one that I've said with as I've talked with staff about social networking, that's really kind of where I've directed teachers, I guess, as a place to share
Yep.
out. I like the publicness of it from a school district's perspective versus Snapchat, which is not nearly as public, which I think people will go back and forth about that. And one other thing that I would say is, William Chamberlain brought it up when he was on the show, which I actually, Devin and I were joking beforehand, just about we were looking back on all of the guests we've had so far this year, but we don't have to be every place that kids are. And,
Mhm.
AJ's got a huge list here, and I know I'm not trying to imply that he's saying you need to be on all these, because he's not, but, there are some, find out what works best for you, and see how, um, uh, you know, see what you can do with it.
Yeah, and I think AJ is right in the post, right in writing the post and thinking about what space is going to be next, because that always happens. I think that we would probably agree, and I think we've talked about this a little bit. About I'm probably not on Twitter as much as I used to be, but I think where I spent my time probably more is in Voxer. I have a couple of 2 or 3 groups that I spend more time in having kind of conversations in Voxer. And so that part has replaced a little bit of Twitter for me. And that's fine, I think, for someone, I think I even put in the, I put in the post or in the comment to AJ's post, for somebody like me or somebody like you or somebody who's a little more comfortable with that change where things don't have to be the same always, it's not a big deal. If everybody migrates to another platform in the next 6 months, a year, 2 years, it wouldn't bother me any. I think I could adjust to that. It's all the people that I know that would be kind of those late adopters to things that it makes me fear a little bit them trying some things, because just getting into a space then having it change and kind of under this assumption that you have to change with the times constantly just makes me concerned that they're going to buy into anything if it's always something new. If it's always the conversation is always what's next and what are we going to do, then I just worry they won't try anything.
Yeah, Matt mentioned that most of his kids, he put on Twitter the hashtag Dads and Ed, that a lot of his kids are on Instagram, and I
Yeah,
see that with our district Instagram account. Is most of our followers, I think we have 400 or so, something like that, are mostly kids.
yeah,
But what I like about Instagram is the ability to post there so kids can see it, and post to Facebook fairly easily without having to
mm-hmm.
and hitting both those groups. So the
Yeah, I
other thing
agree, and
is,
he's right. Yeah,
go ahead.
sending the links, comments, and stuff is a huge thing too.
Yeah.
I think he's right when he says that there's just some functionality that doesn't quite fit with Instagram yet that you can still do in the other spaces. Whether it's Twitter or Facebook specifically, that I think they'll get changed. I think it's one of those. They'll continue to iterate on what that looks like, and I think that'll be there. But I agree with Matt. I think that's a big miss right now.
I did notice earlier today that former guest on the show, Alec Kuros, mentioned that he still does a lot of Twitter for those first introductions, which I
Yeah.
think is a good point, and then
Mm-hmm.
carries it on to those other places. He mentioned Facebook, you mentioned Voxer, and it is. I would agree with that. I still love the interactions of Twitter.
I agree.
I still love the sharing of resources there. But if we take that next step of becoming friends with some of those people, I think then that's when it starts to feed over into some of those other areas like a Voxer,
Yeah.
or like a Facebook, and because I definitely there are some Voxers ones that are a little bit more personal
Yep.
than others, but I don't know. It's definitely a transition to the other place for me to meet someone before transitioning into the other spaces.
I agree.
Let's see, Matt, you've been invited. Sent you a couple different ways, so we'll patiently wait for you. We'll just sit here in silence till you hop on. Just kidding. Let's prepare a little bit talking about the NBA dunk contest. I know that you are a fan of the NBA, much more so than I am. I am a somewhat casual fan, I guess I would call it. But your thoughts overall, I guess, and then when Matt gets on, we'll delve a little bit more detailed. But thoughts on the dunk contest this weekend, or NBA weekend in general, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of it, but I did watch highlights.
That's
I
the
tried
important.
I tried to keep up on that, and I guess I did see a lot of it on Twitter. So each time there was a new dunk, I was watching Sunday, but I was watching something last night, and I think when I did watch it, I would see the new dunks coming across on Twitter. So that was kind of fun. We had this little discussion on the Boxer group today that whether or not some of that stuff, the extras, the skills contests and things at All-Star games are worth the time. And I think some people were on the side of, yeah, those are great, that's why I watch, and others like, no, just give me the game. And some of us were just like, who cares? I kind of like the dunk contest. I kind of like the three-point contest. It was one of those two, to be honest, that because it was on TNT or whatever it was on, I'd have to get the app app, and then I have to stream. I have to cast the app to my Apple TV, and I just didn't want to go through all that. I just kind of wanted to watch what was on TV. So I didn't watch anything mostly because of that.
Actually, you can't do that. The TNT app does not allow casting
Well, there you go.
because I did try and it didn't work. So
Well,
I
there you go.
yeah, and that's I again. It's kind of we joked about what nights the Grammys on. I looked for both of those last night and couldn't find either one until I realized that it was on TNT.
Yeah.
Before we bring Matt in, we kind of skipped the dad moment of the week. The train is slowly going off the rails as we speak. Um, dad moment of the week. That's a good one. We had parent-teacher conferences last year, and it's really cool to get some outside perspective on my kids and what they're like, and without us around. Both had very good reports. Life's all good. Kids are great. Yada yada yada. So it's nice to have those conversations with teachers. They both were great conversations. Had a fantastic conversation with one of them. I promised I wouldn't out her as the one who I had the conversation with, but a great conversation about what you should be doing in early elementary
Mm.
and just how that has changed. And I looked it up. You know how schools are really big about an hour and a half of reading now and cutting out recess time.
Yep.
Did you know that the ACT average across the U.S. has not risen in 10 years?
I did not know that.
I looked that up today. So we're doing less play, but we're not seeing the results.
Right.
That was a point my wife brought up, which I thought was fantastic. So
That is fantastic.
parent-teacher conferences went well. But anyway, enough about me. Go ahead, Devin.
I would say my dad moment of the week is has been a lot of this.
Those are
Girl Scout cookies.
oh.
Claire is
Those
a
of
Girl
you.
Scout, and she's trying to sell cookies so that she can go to camp this summer. A second camp, by the way. She's already going to camp, but apparently needs to go to this Girl Scout camp as well. So part of your job as a parent of a Girl Scout is apparently to sell the cookies, deliver the cookies, collect cookie money, and then pay for said cookies. I'm not sure what the Girl Scouts' job is in this, but that seems to be our job. So, if anybody likes Girl Scout cookies and would like to order some, we will deliver. We will send them through the mail if you would like to purchase cookies from Claire, so that she can go to camp and we don't have to pay, all of the camp costs. So, at D Schoening, you can send me messages on Twitter and send me some money and I'll send you some cookies.
My kindergartner is also selling cookies. In fact, my wife is the cookie mom
Oh.
group. So last week we had boxes and boxes of cookies lying down the hallway. It
Mm-hmm.
was great. It's hard for a guy like me who enjoys his sweets to sit here and stare at all these cookie boxes. All right, I think we've let him sit here long enough. Matt, totally apologize. I invited you, skipped over. Not having Brent here, it just kind of, it's like riding a tricycle. You short one wheel and it doesn't really go all that well.
Doesn't roll very well.
I don't know what our excuse is when Brent's here, but anyway, Matt, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Introduce yourself for all the thousands of people that at some point may stumble across this on accident looking for something else.
All right, my name is Matt Miller. I'm a sixth grade social studies teacher in West Central Indiana. It's a rural district. It's a place called Cascade Middle School. It's a part of Mill Creek Schools. We're about 30 minutes from downtown Indy. So I've got two kids. Grayson is 3.5 and Harper is 1.5.
Well, let's go ahead. I want to start right there because this, not really one of the reasons we had you on, but one of the things that's a little bit different about you than anyone else we've had on in the last 47 shows is that your only son, I guess, your oldest child, Grayson, is adopted. And my niece, my brother-in-law is from Africa, and they brought his daughter over, and I understand that process is like ridiculous. So a little bit different than other dads that we've had. Talk a little bit about that, adoption process and how all that kind of went down.
Ours was a little bit different because we didn't work directly with an agency. We actually worked with an orphanage. But as far as it being crazy and ridiculous, it's right up there with it.
I
We started.
actually, not to interrupt, but I just did interrupt. Anyway, um, I had a whole new respect for illegal aliens. Like I totally get it now, and that's not trying to make a political statement one way or the other, but the amount of paperwork to try to legally do something is just it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. When we came here, or when Grayson came, we got his passport and everything, and then like a month later, we had to go and redo it just because you have to redo it. Like there's no, you just do it because they tell you to do it. So.
So you said that you worked through an orphanage. So talk about, where did you find this orphanage at, and why that route versus, the agency route that I know a lot of other parents have had to go through.
So we have a lot of friends through church, and one of them, their names are Dave and Cherie Imson, who run it's called the International Conference on Missions, and I think they call it the ICOM now. But they worked with these people called Ted and Bev Skiles, who were originally from Joplin, Missouri, who went to Taiwan and became missionaries there, and all they did was basically take care of kids. Take care of kids, bring them there, take care of babies as well. And through that connection, we were able to work directly with them. You won't see that anymore. The laws have changed. It seems like laws change almost, as soon as you blink your eye. There's new laws, and but that's how that came to be. We started with foster care first. We thought that was the way that we had always wanted to adopt, and we started with foster care. And it's a crazy story. We had this little girl for a month. And the day we were supposed to give her back, because they finally decided what they were supposed, where the placement was going to be with this little girl, we had gotten the call at midnight of that night that we had been matched with a little boy, and it was pretty much the best day ever. I remember Ted called, and he's just like, "Do you guys want a boy?" And we were just like, "What?" Like, okay. We had thought we had all the paperwork and everything said that we were interested in a girl, which sounds weird that you can pick someone, but in itself, it was like, oh yeah, but it was just like a speechless moment where he couldn't. So then I didn't say anything at first because I was just like, I looked at Lindsay, that's my wife, and we're just like, whatever, and he's like, hello, I'm like, are you there? Do you really want one or not? I'm like, yeah. So that started the process, and then it became paperwork and paperwork and paperwork. My wife had to go to Chicago a couple times, which is about 4 hours or so from here, and go up to I don't know what it is, something to do with international stuff. I can't remember the name of it. So I did that a couple times. When we got over there, we spent about I spent 10 days there with her or so, and then she actually ended up staying for 3 months over there. And it was a tough time on both ends. I was well taken care of here by family and friends, and then eventually her mom went over there to spend some time as well with her, which was awesome that they got to spend that time and to be with Grayson. We met him at 5 months, and then he came home a little right after he turned 7 months or 3 months later. The story is unreal, filled with only miracles that could be happened through just miracles.
Mm-hmm.
And I thank God upstairs for all the things that He did. She was supposed to leave on the 90th, or she was only allowed a 90-day visa, and she left on day 90 with paperwork in hand from the place that wasn't even supposed to be open that day.
Wow.
They had opened up stuff, and that's just one of, I don't know, tons of things that had to happen.
So, Matt, can you tell? I've always had, just tons of admiration for folks who go the foster care route and also the adoption route. I've got a friend here who kind of went through the foster care route as well, and it was just heart-wrenching to hear some of the stories of, not only the kids that they were taking care of and the backgrounds and the history of those kids, but also just them becoming attached to those kids and then having them taken, where they kind of feel like maybe this is the one. They were looking to kind of go the foster care route to end up adopting, and to have that, you kind of hear some of those heart-wrenching stories. And you talked a little bit about it, but can you kind of maybe share going that route, doing going through the adoption, through the orphanage route, and then having a child later on that's kind of that's a biological child, and kind of completing that whole amazing story?
Yeah, well, we originally were told that our chances of having children were pretty slim, and so that's why we originally started the foster care to adopt. We probably couldn't do it again. You talk about heart-wrenching, and we became, it was 3 days after that little girl was born that she was in our care for a month, and it was a judge's decision. I mean, to give it wherever, and we're okay with it. But it was really, really hard. Just to say, yeah, we cared for this newborn baby for a month, and now, to give it up. And it sounds bad. You're like, well, what, I wanted it, but it went to a place to a great stable place, and it was fine. But it was really tough on us as a couple, and it really trying times, no doubt. Later, when we found out that Lindsay was pregnant, it was for us amazing, definitely amazing, because we wasn't expected at all. And then I came home one day, and she had on Grayson's crib, she printed up this eviction notice that he had to get out of the crib, and 9 months or like 7 months or whatever it was, I don't know, but it was pretty awesome. And I didn't get it at first. I was like, why's he got to get out? Like, are we getting a new bed? Is he getting a bigger bed? I don't understand. So and then she looked at me like I was really stupid, and then
and you played it off.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, I got it. I mean,
we've all gotten that look
daily. You mentioned that you are a sixth grade social studies teacher, but I also know that you do a lot of logos. You kind of graphic design. You even have that in your Twitter profile. And I just realized that this is a great segue from one to the other. And by great, I mean it's not one at all. Where did that come from? Like, social studies teacher, graphic design. And I've seen you've done some fascinating stuff for your basketball team. I remember my middle school basketball coach. We were lucky if he knew our name. So the work you put into that. I hope the kids appreciate some of that stuff. But where'd that hobby come from?
Well, I've always been interested in art. My mom, just did a lot of stuff at home. She was just for fun, and that kind of got me interested in it. I always took some sort of art class going through high school, and then once I graduated from high school, kind of to pay for college and whatever else money I needed, I worked for a guy at a trophy shop who eventually added screen printing to his repertoire. And so basically it was on me to learn everything from artwork all the way down to printing a shirt, to cleaning everything up, and to producing artwork on t-shirts. And so that's where I started. I worked for about 4 or 5 years with them while I went to school, and I'm not going to say working full time, but it was pretty much all the time. And then I got a job as a maternity. I got a maternity leave job, kind of my first real teaching job. And then after that, it was about I couldn't find anything else for a while, and so I went back to design, and I worked for a company that did contract printing for Reebok and Adidas at the time. And so I got to see a lot of really cool stuff. There's me and this other girl who were their in-house artists, and I got to see tons of stuff. Probably the coolest thing that I've ever done, and it was really neat to see was I designed the shirts for the little kids that catch the balls on the Major League Baseball home run derby out in the outfield. Yeah, so the stuff that I did, they wore some of my stuff. So that was kind of the coolest thing.
Huh.
I got to see all the Super Bowl stuff probably about 3 or 4 months beforehand what it would look like, and then I saw them printing that night before everything happened. So it was pretty neat. I don't know if I'd go back to doing it like that, but I do a lot of freelance stuff on my own, lots of logo stuff now. I still do T-shirts occasionally, but it's been something that I've done for about 10 years now on the side, just to kind of supplement a little bit, and I love it. So
that's very cool. If we get back to education a little bit, Matt, can you tell us a little bit about Ditch the Textbook?
So
No?
all right, so
Josh told me. You're kidding me? Josh told me this was the Matt Miller we had coming on. No?
No, but Matt is a wonderful guy, and we've chatted a bunch, and we actually get we get missed up or a couple times, and not a couple, more than a couple, and it's fun. He came to our school. I don't know, this year a couple times. I did all-day seminar things, and it's great. I love it. We call each other our doppelnamers because we have the same name. It was really neat. He used it in some sort of presentation he did, and he talked about the power of Twitter and how it came together. And there's this guy over in Ohio as well, and his name is Matt Miller, and we'll get on and we talk about doppelnamers and the Matt Popcalypse, and Matt Miller's taking over the world someday. So it's great.
Obviously, Matt, I knew that was not you. We're not him. But I just find it fascinating that there are two guys from Indiana named Matt Miller, both, that if you go on Twitter, you can't pick them apart unless you know who they are. So no, I just thought that was. I was not as funny as I think I am. But yeah. So seriously though, about
no, it was funny. It was funny. I love it. And it happens all the time.
I know it does, and that's why the joke is no good. I get it.
I want to point out though. So we have this Google Doc with all of our notes in it. So Devin, one of the questions that we had to ask you is, so tell us about Ditch the Textbook. And I read that, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah. And then I see in parentheses, I know this is a different Matt.
What I didn't want is Josh or Brent thinking like I really didn't know the difference. And like, are you kidding me? Like, I know we don't do a lot of research for the show, but for crying out loud, like we've had this conversation.
Usually we're good about what the guest has and has not done.
Seriously though, about your classroom, one of the things I thought was cool recently, you shared about doing some new furniture for your classroom and kind of going with the orange leaf kind of furniture. Can you talk a little bit about that and how it came about and how you ended up making that happen?
Yeah. When I walk into Orange Leaf, one time I was like, this would be awesome for a classroom. It's more set up like that. At the time I had those, it has a big desk in front, and then, it's got the huge little, you put all your books in, and so the desks are huge. And I thought, well, we could save some space and do it this way. And about a year ago, I walked into an Orange Leaf, and I said, I just tweeted out something that said, this would be really cool in my classroom. And so they tweeted back at me and said, that was cool, and then they said, you got it. And I was like, what does that mean? Because that means that I got it. And so my principal, Eric Sieferman, joined in, and he did a lot of the legwork on it and a lot of the just talking with the executives or higher-ups or whatever. And lo and behold, earlier this year, we get a large shipment of Orange Leaf furniture to our school, and it outfitted. In my classroom, I have three of it's like a little table and then 4 seats around it. I got 3 of those and then some high top ones like that. And I think the chairs ended up going in about 10 different teachers' classrooms. And I love it. Kids love it. It really helps with collaboration more than anything. And just being able to, not have a humongous amount of desk in between you to have a conversation. Because the way that my class is designed, it's a lot of conversation, a lot of working together on some things.
And the kids, you said the kids liked it. Did they? What did they think when the furniture came? Did they As sixth graders, it was pretty cool.
Sorry. Yeah, they thought it was awesome. They were more just like, what's happening? Because we had the Mark Red, the awesome custodian, and his staff, and some of the other classes there had to put it all together, which was great. And then they just started bringing it down, and kids were more like, "What is this?" Like they didn't know what to do with it, so they were taking out our desks and bringing new ones in, and it was great. They like it, and I like it, and it's really neat what Orange Leaf has done, and I appreciate it, and I know everyone else does there too.
That's very cool.
Well, Matt, you are obviously you said you're in Indiana, which is a hotbed for college basketball, and obviously being a basketball coach, definitely something that you follow. So, what are your thoughts on college basketball, up to this point?
Well, I think the number one topic is that everyone who's supposed to be good keeps losing.
Right.
And so I don't know what that's going to mean. I think it's going to mean that March is going to be really fun and exciting as long as your team wins. But and as far as basketball goes, I love it. I love basketball. I think there's better basketball being played at Division II, Division III, and I think a lot of the Division I stuff is based upon a lot of athleticism. It doesn't mean I don't like it, but I think a lot of the fundamentals kind of goes a little out. But I could sit and watch basketball all day. It's what I love to do. I love how the sport of basketball has people sitting right on top of you, and I don't think you get that with other sports. And you go to offense to defense, and everything changes so fast. And I don't know, it just makes me think about it. I try to keep things simple on the court, but I don't know. I love it. I guess I don't know if that's a prediction or not, but I think March is going to be wild. So.
March is going to be wild, and I think that's part of the beauty of it. I think we've talked before about even how season to season is different. This year it seems like nobody can kind of take hold of that top spot and stay with it. So the ranked teams, the top ranked teams, seem to get beat every weekend. And last year you're going into the tournament thinking, oh God, can Kentucky finish this thing off and be undefeated? You had a great Duke team. I like that it changes every year, and I'm kind of with you. There's a lot of good basketball being played at D2 and D3, and it's the beauty of the NCAA tournament also. Even though these teams aren't D2 and D3 teams, but when you get these smaller schools from smaller conferences that come in and play, they typically don't have the athleticism that you're talking about that you see all the time in D1. They typically do play maybe a little better brand of basketball. If you think, Butler before they got really big, it's kind of the way that they played. It was a really fundamental game of basketball. There you go. Yeah. See, that's what I love about the tournament. I love being able to see teams like that come in that play really good fundamental basketball, and you're like, hey, maybe they can make it to the second weekend.
Yeah, I agree with that, and even going back 4 or 5 years, it just seems like, they always use the word parity, a buzzword, but it seems like every year it's gotten, I don't want to say if that's good or bad, but it's gotten to the more point where it's almost expected that the number one team's not going to be there for maybe more than a couple weeks.
Right.
Speaking of athleticism, and I share your love for a good fundamental basketball game, which is part of the reason why I'm only a casual NBA fan, but I have been catching up on the dunk contest from this weekend. And for those of you that haven't seen it, Zach LaVine of the Minnesota Timberwolves won a fairly close, I think it's fair to say, slam dunk competition over Aaron Gordon. Is that his name? From the Orlando Magic. The dunk contest has been kind of, I don't know what the right word is, but with the lack of stars that have shown up to participate in the dunk contest, it's kind of lost some of its luster. We started this conversation a little bit, but your guys' thoughts on the dunk contest? Is it back? Is it reviving the good old days of Jordan versus Dominique?
Matt, what do you think?
I think personally, I'm not wired. I think it comes from my coach background that I'm not wired to like dunk contests. I don't know what that means, but I can admire athleticism, and I thought that Zach LaVine's dunk. I didn't watch it live. I watched the kind of the YouTube recap, was the best one was, I think, obviously from the free throw line was cool, but the one where he went under both his legs, to me was, I think he grabbed it off the top of the mascot's head or something, and
that was Aaron Gordon. That wasn't Zach LaVine.
Oh, okay, yeah, then him then. Yeah. Whichever one did that one. That was the best one, I think.
I would agree. If you just take like one, best dunks, not necessarily who won, I would completely agree. He is basically sitting down in air, grabbing it off the mascot's head and going underneath. I mean, I agree with you. What I like about it is that the creativity was just off the charts this year. And listen to a couple of people talk about it today. Vince Carter really I think they said it was 2000, 2002, something like that. His was a show. I mean, his was just Vince Carter doing it. It wasn't really a competition. It wasn't even close that year. And a lot of what Jordan and Dominique did were dunks that they did in the open court during a game.
Right.
Zach LaVine's not taking off from the free throw line and going between his legs, and Aaron Gordon's not having the mascot out there on a hoverboard spinning around. I mean, the creativity level of these two guys, I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, I know I dropped off there for a second, but the Aaron Gordon dunk, where he grabbed it off of the top of the mascot and was sitting, almost hit his head on the rim, was incredible. I think one of the reasons that I enjoyed the dunk contest, even as bad as it got for a few years there, is I never had anywhere near that kind of athleticism. So to be able to see guys go and do some of the things they're able to do, I find it just fascinating. Not that, it's probably the reason I wouldn't get as excited about the three-point contest, even though I think it's phenomenal to watch guys like Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and all others shoot the ball. Shooting the ball is something I think, somebody can get good at. I can go out there, maybe not me, but, somebody can go out there and shoot threes all day and kind of do the same thing that they're doing. Not going out on the floor, and I can't do the things that Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon do in the dunk contest. Just can't do it.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, let me I want to put this out there that I use Drop Step Dunk as my Twitter handle. I've never dunked in my entire life.
I think I told you early on that might be my favorite Twitter handle that I've ever seen. I love @DropStepDunk. I think it's awesome. I wish I would have thought of it.
So where does that come from then, Matt?
A long time ago, when I first joined Twitter,
Matt Miller was already taken by a guy who wrote a book.
Yeah, or about 5 million other Matt Millers out there. Whenever I have to sign up for a new account on anything, it's ridiculous. It's going to be like M Miller, and then they always give you like 12 numbers after it because there's a. But no, I was actually wanting to do. To be a college coach, kind of before I had kids and before it was just me and my wife, and it was just like, hey, I want to do this. And so I started a blog a long time ago. It's still out there. It's never been updated in a long time, but it was just Drop Step Dunk, and I just talked basketball on it.
Huh. Cool. Hey, one thing, Matt, that we always try and get some perspective on from the people that we have on is we really do try and look at this intersection of being parents, being fathers, and educators, and curious, what impact each has on the other. So what impact does being a teacher have on you when you became a parent, and kind of vice versa? Now that you have kids of your own, how does that impact you as a teacher?
I think I look at it as one. I think I learned kind of a different perspective once I had kids. It just was like, would I say this to them? Would I make this comment? I'm pretty. I can be snarky with students. I'm pretty. I start off every class period with a pun of the day, so I'm very jokey. And it just made me kind of rethink a lot of it. Like, would I really say that or not? I try to think of them as every teacher always says, "Oh, I got 300 kids," or whatever. But I don't think I really understood kind of the individuality of each student until I had, Grayson and Harper to just kind of bounce stuff off of and just relay it back. I enjoy it. I think it has added a little bit more to teaching because you see him as, as someone else's child as well, and not just a student. And I think it's helped with relationships with students. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Great points. Matt, well, we have a few other things that we need to take care of, but we know that you are out there on the East Coast. Do you have time to stick around, or you need to get going?
I'm here to stay.
All right. All right. So I have here. We're gonna have you fill in for Brent. So I'm gonna give you a task, Matt. We need 2 people on Twitter, one just a regular Twitter follow, and then one from your school district that we need to follow. Okay. I'll give you a minute to think about those. I have the apper side of the week, and I have to give a shout out to My Story app, My Story Interactive bookmaker, I think it's called. It is at My Story app, and I'll put it here on Twitter here in just a second. We have a student, kindergartner, who is going in for his second heart surgery on Wednesday, and so today we got to Skype with him before he starts getting prepped for his heart surgery. And then the kids, we use the My Story app to take a quick picture and record them saying a little note to him, and then we could export it as a video, put it up on YouTube so that he could watch it on his iPad. So super simple app to use. They have a free version and a paid version. The free version lets you do everything that the paid version does. The paid version just gets you the ability to create more books and more authors at one time. So My Story app available for iOS, and I don't believe Android. I would have to double check that. Devin, do you know?
I don't, but I think you're right. I do not think it is on Android.
Yeah. So My Story app, fantastic, easy to use. Book Creator is another one of my favorites, which is available on Android. Book Creator lets you do video, which My Story doesn't. My Story is really geared for younger kids, but it is fantastic, and hopefully the kids app's gonna love the video we have for them. So,
Very
all
cool.
right, we will skip Twitter. So Matt, I'll give Matt a couple more minutes to do his research there. Devin, coming event.
Coming event, I'm going to share on April 5th and 6th, the Iowa One-to-One Institute One-to-One Conference, one-day conference, and the Leadership Symposium is the day before on April 5th, and it will be Bob Dylan, who's a first ever guest on Dads and Ed. He will be leading that day. So April 5th and 6th, the Leadership Symposium, and then the Iowa One-to-One Conference takes place on the 6th. It's a nice kind of 2-day event. Really, it's a 1-day event. The symposium is kind of a separate attached piece. But in Iowa, we've had folks there, that come in, from Illinois and Wisconsin, Missouri, places like that, Minnesota, to come down to that. So it's a great event, fairly inexpensive. For the day and a half to come down. So I will post that link out on the Dads and Ed hashtag. But one-to-one symposium coming up in Iowa here pretty soon.
Not able to make it this year, but did get to go for the first time last year and did have a great time. So bummed I'm missing it this year. Hopefully be back next year.
Yep.
All right, Matt, do you have a general Twitter person to follow for us?
Yes. All right, so I use... it's this is a sports-ish guy,
Nice.
and he's actually an author, and I don't know if he might have been shared on this before, I don't know, but John Gordon, who's written probably the most school-related one would be the Energy Bus, but he is probably one of my favorite authors. His Twitter handle is at John Gordon 11, and I use a ton of his stuff to motivate my students and to motivate my players as well. And I've been honored a couple times to be a part of his preview of his book, and you give him feedback before it actually publishes it. and it's phenomenal. Super great dude. He's been probably, I don't know about rising, whatever, but he's now talking with some big time college programs to help their athletes improve. And I think one of them was Clemson this year, where he came in and did a ton of speaking engagements with the Clemson football guys. But I use him a lot. Just some of the stuff he puts online, and I think every Monday he gives a Monday email, and it's pretty good.
Cool.
Very cool. I haven't read his books, but I've heard a lot of great things about the Energy Bus. Those have been big out here too. So
Agreed.
good stuff. All right, moving on to the district spotlight. Devin.
Yeah, I am going to share tonight one of our a third grade teacher in one of our buildings, Robert Telgren, at Telgren's class, Tellgrens class. He has been one of our early adopters in our district for a few years. The nice thing, and I kind of put this in the post that I just shared on Twitter, he's always willing to try new things and doesn't live by the mindset that because they're third graders they can't do whatever it is that he would give them opportunities to do. And it doesn't mean that it always succeeds. You know, we've had lots of conversations, he and I, about things not working, you know, like, oh, I really wanted this to work and it just didn't. And so he's a great teacher. Kids are lucky to have him, and just always willing to give something a go, even if he's not sure how it's going to turn out.
Very good. Well, earlier tonight, I got the Superintendent's MVP Award, which is a monthly-ish award that our superintendent gives out.
Nice.
So I feel like it's probably
Congrats.
a good idea. Thank you. He did tell me after he said that I was getting that award that then I had to go Thursday morning and talk to parents and do a parent group presentation about what I actually do. But no, you know, we talk a lot about vision and what it takes, you know, to have culture in a school. And Dr. Schwer is our superintendent at LC Supt, S-U-P-T. Is really sets the tone for the district, very much caring about the individual people that are there. Just a fantastic guy to work for, and so does not tweet very much. I am trying to get him on Twitter. Our last snow day, he gave me a bunch of grief because no one thanked him on Twitter for calling the snow day. So the second snow day, I put his Twitter account there. He was happy that at least a couple of kids said thank you to his Twitter account. So I love giving him a hard time, but at LC Soup. I'll tweet that out here in just a second. Matt.
He is a good.
Yeah, so I'm going to use a hashtag instead. And everywhere, we have 4 schools in our district, 2 elementaries, a middle school, and a high school. And if there's anything awesome happening, we always use the hashtag MC_EA3. And that stands for Mill Creek Excellence in Attitude, Actions, and Academics. And so all the good stuff that's from my district is tweeted out through there, and it's pretty cool stuff.
Very cool.
I did not know you could have an underscore in a hashtag, and that works. I mean, I'm assuming it does. I don't mean to.
I hope so. You know.
I mean, I'm guessing. That's cool. I learned something new. Didn't know that was possible. It's fun to learn something new.
Good gracious.
All right, we've come to the end of the show. Matt, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your story. We really do appreciate your time tonight.
Absolutely.
Loved it. Appreciate it being on. Honored.
Not a problem. We are back. I didn't realize this till just now. February 29th, Leap Year Day. We are having a Dads and Ed.
It will be the show that never was.
Yeah.
Until 4 years from now.
I wouldn't tell our guest. What? I know. Jonathan's going to be. We are going to have Jonathan Wiley from Grantwood AEA. My favorite Scottish? He's Scottish, right?
He is Scottish, yeah.
My favorite Scottish person that I know.
My favorite Scottish Iowan.
Yeah. If you've ever wanted to know what a Scottish Iowan accent sounds like, tune in on Leap Year Day.
That's right.
To listen to Jonathan Wiley. All right, Matt, thanks again. Devin,
Yes,
nice job. Brent, hope you're feeling better, and we'll see everyone in 2 weeks.
good night.